Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Turin here with another Warhammer Total War online commentary. In this particular battle, I'm going to be playing the Beastmen led by Kazrak the One Eye. So does he actually have, yeah, it looks like that one eye is indeed missing, so he is true to his name. So let's go ahead and get started, guys. We have a front line of Ungor herds. I actually like them a lot. They have stock, Vanguard deployment, though I don't usually use the Vanguard deployment at all. The stock is still quite nice, because when my opponent, sees my army at first, he doesn't really know where my troops are. It's safe to assume that I am bringing Ungor, so he probably knows what to expect on that regard, but again, he's not going to know, where they are. They could be over here, coming from this angle, pressuring this flank. So it's definitely a nice unit in that respect. But other than that, pretty low tier infantry, but they are shielded, so not terrible against the Empire. Also have a single group of Ungor Raiders, just to have a little variance, and they're decent. They can sneak up on crossbowmen and, do decent work there. I have two Gorbals, absolute MVPs in the Beastmen arsenal. I have Kazrak the One Eye, as I mentioned earlier, and I also do have a Bray Shaman on the Pimp My Ride Chariot. So that does give him armor piercing, anti-infantry, but it also does, if you want to use it in that respect, require a lot more micromanagement. But I did bring the Transformation of Kadan, the Wyson's Wild Form, as well as the Flock of Doom, which is very, very good against Empire. So if you send in like a Gorbal, and they all the halberdiers and spearmen and other troops kind of conglomerate on it and really get aggressive, it's very good to use a Flock of Doom in that particular situation. So really like that ability. I also have two Centaurs with great weapons, as well as a group of Chaos Poison Warhounds, and then Minotaurs with great weapons as well. So I really invested a lot in dealing with Demogryph Knights, and unfortunately my opponent did not actually bring any. He brought a massive infantry army, so it's definitely going to be a little bit tougher to make these guys effective, as he does have, halberdiers and spearmen in his flank. So, but we'll see how they do. Hopefully they can get her done, guys. So let's go ahead and take a look at my opponent's army composition. He has an Empire Captain with the potion, General of the Empire with the potion, also the potion of Foolhardiness, so very, very smart. If he does take massive shock damage, he will be able to heal it up and guarantee that that heal gets through. Looks like he has some swordsmen on the front line. He has some great swords in the secondary line to deal with my more elite troops, Gorbals, those type of things. And he has halberdiers on the wings here. And then on top of that, he has some handgunners in the back, which are very, very good at focusing down Gorbals. If he can protect those and let them sustain fire on the Gorbals, it's going to be hard. I can lose them very quickly. And then in the group, not in the group, but in the back, he has two groups of spearmen, which is going to be tough. I don't really have a great place to go on his flank with my cav. He has halberdiers here, he has spearmen in the back, and then another group of halberdiers over here. So it's going to be very tough to get in there, but hopefully I can get it done, guys. He also has two witch hunters, which I did not realize until the game was almost over. I was wondering why my heroic units are taking so much damage, and you guys will see throughout the course of this game, but he does indeed have two witch hunters, which is very, very cool. So got to give this guy props for using a very cool army composition. So let's go ahead and get started, guys. So right now I'm just advancing my main force, and when you are playing against the Empire, they're going to look around for scraps. They're kind of, these generals of the Empire and these Empire captains are kind of like scavengers. They're going to look for a loose group of Ungors or other units, or if your Bray Shaman isn't pathed correctly and he walks behind your army, they can dive bomb, do a ton of HP damage, and then get out pretty easily. So it's very important, as you guys can see. I'm just kind of cycle pathing my Centaurs and my Chaos Warhounds right behind my army, so if he does decide to land and get aggressive, you can first poison them, and then they will not get away. The Centaurs have 91 move speed when they're close to, I think the Lord provides movement speed, but they have 85 base, and with the poison, it'll lower these guys, their move speed from 90 to, I think it's close to around 70 or something, so they won't get away from you, which is very nice. He did back up his army, which was a very, very good play because it gives him a little more depth. And also, as I come down this hill, he's going to be able to get a pretty good slope. But once I am down in the valley, it's going to be a little harder for these handgunners to shoot. But what's nice about handgunners in this matchup is that Gorbals are quite a big unit. They'll stand quite a bit taller than these swordsmen here. And, you can still get, a decent line of sight on Gorbals regardless of where they are. So the Beastmen forces are advancing down the hill, and I was trying to kind of figure out where I wanted to go with my mounted units. As you can see, I'm kind of just clicking around trying to decide right now, but I decided to kind of pressure this flank, and then I just reevaluated and saw spearmen and halberdiers, and for that little resources, he can in many ways shut down this entire group. And also, I did invest in the anti-large version of these, so they're going to be very weak to handgunner fire. But we do engage in the front line. You can see the beasts and men are kind of colliding. And, in terms of troop quality, swordsmen and Ungors are relatively similar, so not much going on. I do use a Flock of Doom over here as well, and am using the Gorbals to kind of penetrate this front line. So I decided if I couldn't go around, the way out was through. So I decided to gather all my forces and just do a blitzkrieg on these swordsmen in the front. And hopefully I could crack that, which would then open it up to these kind of squishy units. And Centaurs, though they're not great against greatswords, will do okay. So I charge in and kind of pressure the line. They do a very good job of holding, actually. You see only a few get knocked back, but unfortunately they are low tier units, and when the Minotaurs come in and push them through, they do break. So at that point, he is going to pull his greatswords out of auxiliary, but a lot of these units are going to be very good against greatswords. These guys have armor piercing. You can see they're taking a beating from the Minotaurs and other units like that. So I was very happy about how that front line went, and it kind of was a good solution. to getting around his, having to go around his flank. So you can see the Ungors are shooting here, but unfortunately for me, the handgunners are doing a great job. If you guys take a look, they're just teeing off on that Gorbel, and its health dropped instantly. So I had to use my potion of toughness very early in the battle, which is exactly what you do not want to be doing, because Gorbels are essential. And also, I didn't notice these Witch Hunters. They kind of just blend in there, but he was taking a lot of shots at my Gorbel, and he does have 362 weapon damage with armor-piercing shots. So also, he did use an Accusation on Khazrak, and I didn't really understand how he took so much damage, but the Accusation hits like a truck, guys. It's very good. So he does land his General of the Empire here, and I kind of pull my anti-large and poison units, and I'm trying my best to damage him. And, it's going fairly well, and I do start taking a lot of fire here, so I pull my Minotaurs with great weapons through. And this is where I was wishing I had the shielded version, but regardless, they are going to get through, and the Poison Warhounds, they're going to jump on these guys, and you can see that guy actually just kicked the Warhound in the face. Pretty darn funny. Some of the attack animations are so cool, but these not Gorbels, but these Minotaurs are doing very, very good here, so I was happy about that. But my opponent has a pretty healthy pocket here. He was using these Spearmen to deal with my Manticore that I summoned, which is so cost-effective for him. These guys are only 300, they have anti-large, and the Feral Manticore only has 300 armor, and he did indeed break it, so very well played. I do pull some of my Centaurs out, and I'm just really trying to pressure these handgunners because they were destroying my army. Like, they just were tearing my Gorbels to pieces, and in many ways, he already got his money's worth. And also on that same note, the Beastmen are very subject to getting routed off due to leadership, and he's doing a very good job of kind of cycling in and focusing Khazrak, but I do retaliate very quickly with these Centaurs who do have armor piercing, so they're going to do great work. And also the Minotaurs with great weapons come back, but the handgunners are broken, but they will most likely come back and be able to get a pretty decent shot. So I would have liked to have finished them, but I needed to really get in here and finish off his lord. So you can see the General of the Empire is relatively surrounded by all of these units, as well as the Pimp My Ride cart here. So hopefully I'm able to get him here, but I believe he still doesn't have a potion. I'm not sure. Actually, I think he may have used it earlier, and he does indeed go down to that Flock of Doom. So that was a very, very good situation for me. I'm starting to break my opponent's forces, but, I started to look at it in perspective, and I didn't have much left. You can see most of the core of my army is up here in the hills. This Gorbel already used his potion. He's broken. These two Ungors are low. These Ungors up here are low. Here's another low group, and he's using his Empire Captain to actually run around and deal with these threats back here, and it's really wearing me down. But I still do have a Gorbel here who finally was able to get onto this darn Witch Hunter, so they're having a little bit of a duel here. But you guys see the Witch Hunter did indeed bring the potion, so he's going to be very resilient. And, he still does hit relatively hard in melee, so this Gorbel is in trouble. And if any supporting units come over and help out, it's gonna be tough for me. And he still has a ton of infantry. And Halberdiers, all I really have left are heroic units and mounted units. So everything he has is pretty good against what I have left. So unfortunately, you can see these Centaurs were trying to finish off that Witch Hunter. I really wanted to do that, and he does break, but he still was able with the Potion of Foolhardiness to get the full healing. But that Gorbel is really pissed off trying to finish him off. So we will see how it goes. But as I told you guys earlier, those handgunners are back in business. They're doing a really good job just shooting this Gorbel in the back, and you can see since they started shooting, he took another 10 or 15% HP damage. So. And at that point, he sees them, recognizes the threat, but again, he's still taking massive damage, guys. And my opponent does have a line of Spearmen here who I was hoping would break, but unfortunately they did form. They're not facing the right direction, but, hopefully the Gorbel can run through them, and let's see how he goes here. He's thinking about it. He's having a little bit of trouble, but yeah, he actually does get blocked up here and caught up on those idle Spearmen. I believe my attention was unfortunately elsewhere, but Khazrak is here, as well as this Gorbel who's fighting some of these guys, launching them around. But Swordsman, this is definitely a good engagement for the Gorbel. He's going to tear these guys to pieces. They don't have really high weapon stats, nor do they have armor piercing, so they're pretty close to routing off. But he does get that Empire Captain with the potion, and he does slay the Gorbel, so very, very well played. And these handgunners also came back from the flank, and these spearmen and halberdiers and swordsmen are kind of reforming under the leadership of this witch hunter over here, who's just an absolute gangster. So Khazrak realizes the threat, but unfortunately this witch hunter is ready to point his finger and accuse some beasts over here of heresy, and that's going to be pretty tough for me, as Khazrak is low, and heroic units do take a beating from accusations. So the Empire Captain also is full health, and he does a nice little cycle charge on Khazrak and is able to kind of just perpetually knock him down. So very well played on my opponent's part there, just kind of locking him down, and you can see Khazrak's not having a good time. He is not happy. Over here, I still do have a Bray Shaman as well as a relatively healthy Gorbel. That Flock of Doom is generating some excellent value, wearing down all these relatively low-tier infantry. And you can see they're all shaken, and the Pimp My Ride cart does have anti-infantry as well as armor piercing. So against these greatswords that are still left, it's going to be pretty cost-effective. And this Gorbel, unfortunately, he's having to fight Halberdiers, who not only pierce its armor, but also have an anti-large bonus. So I do pull him out, and the Pimp My Ride Chariot does indeed get routed. So very, very tough situation there. And you can see Kazrak over here, he gets the support of a few of these Minotaurs with great weapons, who are able to kind of back him up and actually shatter this Empire Captain. So that's just a testament to how strong these guys are. They have armor-piercing anti-large, and they just have 100 weapon strength. They hit like trucks, for sure. So unfortunately, he does accuse Kazrak here, so Kazrak is definitely feeling his past heresy transgressions, and unfortunately, he does go down. So he drops his whip and definitely ready to take a little bit of a nap. But these Minotaurs are pretty pissed off that their leader just went down, and they're going to hit this guy pretty darn hard. You can see they're doing some good HP damage, but he does have some swordsmen as well as some spearmen coming out of reserve, and they're going to back these guys up, and spearmen are pretty cost-effective against Gorbals, you know, for how cheap they are, and they're still steady, surprisingly, after fighting all these big, scary Beastie Boy units. So over here, definitely grim tidings for me. He does have halberdiers, you know, in relative health. He has some spearmen as well as some greatswords back there. And the Pimp My Ride Chariot, the Bray Shaman, is kind of up in the hills messing around, but hopefully he will come back, as I did have enough Winds of Magic, and you can see he comes back, and he will be able to cast another Flock of Doom. Unfortunately for me, my Minotaurs with great weapons did break, so all I really have left right now is this Gorbel, who's doing a pretty good job chasing off this Witch Hunter, and hopefully he'll be able to finish him. You can see he's got his big cleaver. Definitely not a good matchup for the Witch Hunter in this particular situation. The Witch Hunter was pretty happy earlier, but you can see he is shattered at this point, so I recognize that I don't need to be there anymore. So my Bray Shaman does use a Flock of Doom over here on these greatswords and halberdiers, and is trying to wear him down. I tried to get as many as possible, and to be honest, in retrospect, I probably should have saved it. But, you know, it actually wasn't bad and did a little bit of HP damage. So the Chariot is going to be really good against swordsmen and great swords and those type of units. And you can see, you know, they are shaken. The leadership is pretty low. So they have 9 leadership. These spearmen have 26. These guys have 3. And unfortunately, these guys have 18 and 33 respectively. So this group of greatswords is going to be a huge threat. This Gorbel is literally a few swings away from routing. It is steady with 33 leadership, but still, these halberdiers, if they brace and, you know, are ready for that charge, and even if they don't, with the anti-large armor piercing, it's going to be very tough. So we're going to go ahead and fast forward a little bit, as it's a little atrocious as we both gather our forces here. You can see we're kind of just squaring off, so this is a pretty cool situation. But I was hoping he would group up and I could get a Flock of Doom just like that. So I get a Flock of Doom here, and I decide, you know, why not? I don't feel like running around. I'm just going to get in here and go fisticuffs. And I was trying to, like, ride the Chariot through to get some effects, but these guys were not having any of it. They were just totally cock-blocking me. And, you know, thankfully the Gorbel did a little bit of a somersault and was able to displace a lot of these units, but, you know, I have to pull him out. And the Chariot here is kind of like trapped, and all those like anti-large and kind of braced halberdiers were just kind of really doing work. So thankfully some of his units did rout off from that engagement, and then the Gorbel just comes in here and is just going fisticuffs. So this was so close. These guys have like 16 leadership. He has 22 leadership. He's diving through, doing some great work. They're shaken, and now he's down to 12 though. So I realized I was looking at his leadership. I needed to pull him back and like regroup and start cycle charging. So he's going to come around, but unfortunately he is wavering. So due to army losses, he's very, very low in regards to his leadership. But he's going to come in here, use a little movement buff here, do some good damage. I was hoping that would crack them. It brought them down to 5 leadership, but it wasn't enough. If it had actually chased them off the battlefield, I think I might have been able to win this game. But unfortunately, these halberdiers came back, and this Gorbel had enough. So he's running for the hills. He knows there's not much left of his allies, and it was definitely a very, very good game. So that was a lot of fun. Always a good time to do Empire versus Beastmen. You can see the Gorbels did very well for themselves, but this actually worked quite well. I mean, they didn't rack up a lot of kills, but I didn't notice them. It was kind of out of sight, out of mind, and I was just getting like chain accused on my leadership units, and that's very good against Gorbels. It's good against Kazrak, so definitely some cool meta effects for my opponent. These guys actually did good. The Ungor Raiders were probably a bad investment, but the Centrigors, and I invested so much in that anti-Demogryph squad, and he didn't bring them. So I had all this anti-Cav, and he didn't have any. So very well played and very, you know, unique army composition. You know, generally, you know, he was probably used to playing against Beastmen players who were just really aggressively shutting down Demis and Empire Knights with the Warhounds and the Centrigors, but definitely some fun stuff, guys. The Handgunners did really well, though they didn't rack up a lot of kills. You guys saw he forced both of my potions on my Gorbels right away, so very, very well played there. So again, good games to my opponent. I look forward to seeing you again on ladder, and I hope you guys enjoyed that Beastmen cast. Have an excellent night, and take care.